In this video, I want to talk with you about remorse. This came up in a conversation with someone the other day who is a new parent. He's already feeling those feelings that all of us parents feel of not being enough and not doing everything perfectly. A lot of you contact me, and that's one of the greatest regrets of your life are the things that you did as a parent, or the things that you didn't know, or the things that you didn't do. And it's so incredibly painful. I know that it's painful because I feel those feelings too. And although those feelings are painful, I want you to know that those feelings are good and they're right. And God designed you to feel those feelings. When I was a young mother, there were many nights that I sat up and cried over the ways that I was failing my daughter, over the ways that I felt that I was failing her, because I was so concerned about keeping a clean house and doing all of these things that oftentimes I didn't play with her. I didn't spend the quality time that I wanted to spend with her, that I wished that I would have spent with her, because I was so compelled to do all of these other things, and there was only one of me trying to do everything. And it was important because it helped me, those feelings helped me to reprioritize my time with my daughter. I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want, when she went to bed, for me to stay up crying and feeling terrible about how I hadn't played with her, about how I was missing out on that quality time. The problem is when we're not feeling those feelings, when we're ignoring those feelings, or we feel them ever so often, but we're too afraid to actually face the feelings that God has given us. Now, what do I mean by facing the feelings that God has given us? To acknowledge them, to examine it, and to understand the information that God is speaking into our design. A lot of you are plagued by remorse and you're plagued by shame, but when it comes down to examining it, it's so intolerably painful for you that you run, that you check out, or you intellectualize the feelings that God has given you, and you can't do that. You can't do that if you're going to heal, and you can't do that if you're actually going to receive God's ministry, because He is speaking into the design He's given you. And I just gave you an example of that. If I had not felt those feelings, I would not have been and examined them and acknowledged them and looked at the information that God was providing me. I would not have been able to acknowledge that what I really want is quality time with my daughter. And so if I want that quality time with her, and I don't want to miss out on the time that goes by so fast, then something's going to have to change in me. And it just so happens that God is calling us into change through those feelings He has placed in our design. If we don't acknowledge it, we're not going to change. If we don't know that He's speaking into our design, into the feelings that He gave us that are good, we will not perceive His ministry, and we will thereby reject His ministry. Remorse is important. If you're not feeling it, you're not attuned, because you're insufficient and I'm insufficient. We need God. And one of the things that we also need to come to terms with, for example, in this situation, for example, of being a new parent, is that we're insufficient as a parent. If we keep trying to do things on our own, we keep trying to parent our children, we keep trying to have a relationship with our children apart from God, without receiving His ministry, without Him building us to be the parents that He wants us to be, we are going to mess it up, because we're not enough. And so it's important that when we're feeling that remorse, even now, even years later, after having raised our kids and made those mistakes, if we're not feeling that remorse, we're never going to come to terms with the fact that in order for us to heal those relationships and show up as the parent that we're supposed to be, we need God. We need Him to contend with us, to guide us, to instruct us, and to lead us. And we can't do it without Him. We also need to know that we can't do it without Him, because we need to be able to acknowledge our mistakes with our kids so that we are then modeling for them and teaching them by example that they also need God, that we are not God, that we are fallible, and we don't have all the answers. Because really, at the end of the day, what do you have as a parent? You have your testimony by which to shepherd your child, and that's it. At the end of the day, we are alongside our children. And then there comes a point in our child's development when we're just growing alongside each other, and they're teaching us and we're seeing their example. In order for us to be able to teach and raise and shepherd our children correctly, we're going to have to admit our feelings of remorse. And this way we can come to terms with the fact that we are totally and utterly insufficient. And we can teach our children that we need God and they need God too. When a parent is quote unquote perfect and they act like they've got it all together and they know everything, they damage their child's ability to connect with God. They cause their children to either believe that they are God or to reject God altogether because they are so disgusted by our perfectionistic and unrealistic and hypocritical example. I hope today that you will make an effort to sit down and get in contact with those feelings of remorse and insufficiency so that you can receive the ministry that God is building in you through the design He's given you to feel those feelings. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.